Good evening, everybody. This is Mark Vines, and welcome to the Mark Vines Show. Thanks for joining us, and you are in luck today because the whole planet is in search of a vaccine for the coronavirus. And I can't help you with the coronavirus, actually, but what I can do is help you with the other pandemic, which is just as deadly as the coronavirus, and that is liberalism, which is overtaking the entire planet. And luckily, you are in luck. We have rushed through a vaccine that has been FDA approved on all levels, and it is ready for immediate distribution to the public, and that is the Mark Vines Show, which will cure your disease of liberalism any moment now. So we are in luck here. So with that, we have another guest back, and that's Clint Morano, who's been on this show before, a friend of the show. And Clint, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All
Pleasure
right.
to be here again.
And what we are going to do today, Clint, and this is going to be the first time on this show that we are going to be responding to a question that was given to the show by a listener. And by the way, if you have not reached out to us on our Facebook page, please do so. The Mark Vines Show. Give me a comment, give me a follow, give me a like, spread me to your friends, especially your liberal friends, and we will get back to you as soon as we can with an answer on whatever question you have. So, Clint, what we have today is a question from one of our good friends in the United Kingdom. And I'm not going to mention the country within the United Kingdom, and I'm not going to mention the person because I don't want to embarrass this person. They're a friend of ours, and this is a genuine, heartfelt question that is posed to me, and I'm going to ask you to help me give an answer to this person because I'm really I would say that I'm baffled, Clint, by this question, but I'm really not. You and I both have traveled to Europe. In fact, you and I have traveled to Europe together on business, and I've been over there. And whenever I scratch my head and I wonder why Europeans think what they do, then I look at the news and I realize, well, part of the reason is they're not seeing what we are seeing. So, Clint, here's the question that we have from our friend. And just so our listeners know what it is, it's a picture of Barack and Michelle Obama. And on top of the picture, it says, they never insulted anyone in the name of race or religion. And the question then is, who misses these two? I certainly do, ! And then our friend, the person posing this question, is this: they are the best thing that happened to America. Sadly, most Americans don't see that. So that's the question, Clint. Why don't most Americans miss the Obamas? And I'm just going to let that marinate for a minute because, wow, just a lot of different directions. And we could probably do about 4 episodes on answering that question. But it's a heartfelt question from our friends in the UK, and we're going to help you out here. So, Clint, you want to kick it off and just kind of give me your just first impressions, will you, on that?
Well, what? Okay. So I think the Europeans, they first of all, the Europeans did not like George Bush or his administration. They viewed him as a warmonger. Well, here's a perfect example. I have a friend, lifelong friend, expat who lives in Sweden, and I remember him calling me one day, a former naval officer, by the way, but he married a Swedish woman and he lives in Sweden. And he's like, most people around here really just get turned off by George Bush because he's always saying something about God. And I was like, well, I don't know what's wrong with that. But to Europeans, I guess that struck a chord that they didn't like, that he would mention God or God bless America or this and that. And that just added. And I think you and I think although Europe is covered with beautiful churches and everything, they don't really go to church anymore. I think they believe in such a secular, scientific world that faith means very little to them. So a guy like George Bush really turned them off. And then here comes Barack Obama, this man of the world preaching, peace and everything. And they give him the Nobel Peace Prize before he even did anything in office. and they just became enamored with him because he wasn't George Bush. Little did they realize that he would go on to get us involved in, just drone striking at will across the Middle East, killing people, with this automatic ease of computerized death from the sky. They seem to not be quiet on that issue, and then with his lack of engagement allows ISIS to evolve and take over. Remember the JV team take over most of the a good portion of the Iraq into Syria, and it took Donald it took years and finally to drive them out of there. But that most of those fighters came from Europe. And, and then they went back and they brought that ISIS mentality, and all those attacks that happened in France and Belgium and England, those are all ISIS people that were created by Barack Obama. So it is interesting that they don't see his flaws, right? They only see him because, why? Because he didn't insult the world, I guess, because he didn't say America was the best country in the world, because he didn't walk around like America was great, because America is great. And you and I have both been all over the world. And listen, I love our NATO allies, and I love my time I spent in Europe. But we are the most powerful country in the world. And I think a lot of people really have an issue with that. And it's not like we use it in a malevolent way, but for some reason, people think that our intrusiveness in the world, politics and economy and everything is bad for everyone. I would argue it's not. I mean, I think because of America, Europe isn't communism. Russia would have rolled over because, roll even farther back. Because of America, Nazi Germany was defeated. So there lies I think the fascination with Europeans and Barack Obama is that he wasn't George Bush, and he went on this world tour of apologies for American greatness, and that sunk in with them. As far as her comment about him being the greatest president, I must disagree with that, because I actually believe he's probably the worst president since Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
From a law enforcement aspect, his administration was the ones that put a target on every officer's back. And we already talked about the political instability in the Middle East that he created. And economically, I mean, he did nothing. So let's talk about why Americans, and I can't speak for all Americans, of course, because you can go out and probably find someone who loves him just as much as your UK follower does. But from my standpoint, and from the standpoint of people I know, is I think Barack Obama was a failure and a fraud in the aspect that here was the first African American, or at least half African American person elected into the highest elected position in America. And I think there's a lot of people that thought by that act alone they were going to solve all the problems of race in this country. That he would come in, and just like his father is black and his mother is white, he was going to bring together everyone. And finally, we would have racial harmony in America. Instead, I think his administration really made that worse, ultimately. And I think even to the most closet liberal who voted for him, I think they feel somewhat betrayed in the fact that didn't happen. They thought that their guilt in being a white liberal, or whoever they were, a suburban white mother with a nice house, and feeling bad for everyone that they think have been downtrodden in the 240 some years this country's been in existence. I think that is part of the issue, that they feel that he did not come through in a way that they thought he would. I think that's part of it. And I talked about the police aspect of it. And, did he make the world a safer place for the United States? Absolutely not. The deal that closed door deal with Iran, I think only emboldened Iran. And I don't think it slowed down their nuclear ambitions whatsoever. North Korea certainly wasn't persuaded not to work on its nuclear program and missile program. Syria is a disaster. He did nothing to try and help the process of.
And something, Clint, and I absolutely agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think you got cut off by a phone call there, but
Yeah.
I was just going to jump in here for a second because since you brought up the subject of race, and let's just start with that because the question is really twofold. He didn't insult anybody on the basis of race or religion, and I think what a lot of Europeans don't understand is that that's not true. That's absolutely not true. And so it's either one, you're not getting the news over there that we get here, or you're ignoring some of the idiosyncrasies of how that happened. And much of the Obama's attack on race was through their actions, not necessarily things that they said. Although Michelle Obama, on a number of occasions, and even just recently, talked about how she was not proud to be an American. And then when her husband got into office, that was the first time she was proud to be an American. And so if that's not an attack on race, and that's not once, I mean, it's a number of times, to include recently, by the way. But this attack on the police, make no mistake about it, that is an attack. That is the Obama's way of attacking race in America, because what they have done is they have said that law enforcement is systemically racist. And I know, Clint, you and I have already done a number of podcasts on that, but that is a racial attack, okay? Because everything that they do is based on, the police are bad, the police are racist, and the police are predominantly white. That's the accusation they made, although many police departments are very, very integrated. And in fact, the police department I worked in was majority black. So they were wrong about that. And then, just this perpetual pushing of false narratives. For example, Ferguson, Missouri, to this day, they push the narrative that was an unjust shooting in Ferguson, Missouri, when it in fact was a clean shooting, and his own Justice Department justified that shooting. And then we could talk about Atlanta. We could talk about we could go on and talk about case after case after case where the Obamas said that it was the police brutalizing African Americans, which was not true. So that is an attack on race. So your thoughts on that, Clint?
No, I guess, and I never confirmed this, so I'm not going to talk about her college life, but, I do find it somewhat interesting that, two people that, really benefited greatly from the system, Barack and Michelle Obama. I mean, she went to Princeton, right? He went to Harvard.
Yeah.
Would they have gotten in on their own merits alone if they not had invoked race to get there? I'm not sure. Probably. I don't know what their high school GPAs were or whatever. But if I remember, they've really done pretty well for themselves in this system that they think is so unjust to them. So I find that a little surprising. And then once again, that probably, that doesn't sit well with a lot of Americans. Here are two people that have become multi-millionaires in this oppressive system, right? And, but yet they sit there and they say it's not fair. If it wasn't fair, they would have never had a chance. right? They had a chance. They made the most of it, and they continue to reap in the benefits of it. And what have they done since, he left office? What major things has he done to improve the lot of minorities in this country? All I know is he vacations a lot, and he continues to make tens of millions of dollars a year going around giving speeches.
Right.
And how is that helping the inner city educational system, or the housing, or jobs, or what? I don't know if it is. It seems like he's taking care of himself to me.
And they just bought a home up in the Hamptons. That's just one of many homes that they have. And I'm going to point out also that when he was in Washington, D.C., his two daughters, he put the two daughters into an exclusive private school. They did not go to school in DC with other kids. So even to this day, he does not choose to live in minority neighborhoods. He lives in very exclusive areas that you and I, frankly, could never go to. You and I could have never sent our kids to the schools that he sent their kids to. Very hypocritical. But, I think what it comes down to is I really... It's amazing. Again, I don't know that in the UK they are seeing and hearing what we see, because the news is heavily censored. By the way, it's becoming even more censored here. Clint, I don't know if you saw the news report today about the emails that have verified that Joe Biden was involved in getting his son Hunter a job with Burisma. That came out. But I've already read articles talking about how Twitter and Facebook are taking down posts that talk about that incident. So we are being censored here. So I know they're being censored in Europe. But I think that there's this sense that because someone is civil, someone looks good, someone looks like a good couple, Barack and Michelle have a loving marriage. They have two wonderful daughters, and they do. I'm not disparaging these people at all. But because he's genteel, he's well-spoken, he doesn't raise his voice, then therefore he was a good guy, compared to that gnarly orange man that tweets and is vulgar. And I think that's a real dangerous road to go down. And I think that a lot of people in Europe are, I think in Europe that there's kind of like that respect for being genteel and being proper and, showing class and those kinds of things. Whereas, Trump comes in, he's that New Yorker, he's loud, he's brash, he calls you out, he'll confront you, he hits back when you hit him. And I think that turns a lot of Europeans off. But what they don't understand is this is not about being a nice guy. It is not about being faithful to the one woman that he was married to. I know Trump's been married several times. That has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is protecting our freedoms, protecting our economy, building our economy, maintaining our military, improving the military, and protecting, first and foremost, our freedoms in this country, which we are losing more and more and more of, and lowering our taxes wherever possible. And that, by far, is Donald Trump. And Barack Obama decimated the economy. I don't care what people tell you. He decimated our military. He absolutely did not follow the Constitution. Whenever he didn't like if the legislative process was not going his way, he just he abused the executive order ability of the office, and was just a wrecking ball. I mean, just an absolute wrecking ball while he was in office. But again, Europeans looked at him and said, but he seemed like a really nice guy. And I think that Europeans are more apt to be accepting of the social state, which is what he clearly, and all of the Democrats, not just Obama, are moving towards this socialism state that is prevalent in Europe. And Obama was pushing us towards Obamacare, which would more likely resemble what they have in the National Health Service in Great Britain, which is a disaster. We would never want to have the National Health Service in America. And I could do 3 different shows on that, why that's an abject disaster. But I think that's what they see, Clint, don't you?
Yeah, I tend to agree. They, like I said, the difference between the news being censored there and here. I mean, their government, I think, is censoring, some of their news. Where thankfully, so far, not in our country. The government isn't censoring the news. The news may not be correct. It may be doing its own censoring of itself, but that is freedom of the press, so they can do what they want. But I think you're absolutely right. I think Europeans are used to this more socialized concept of government and government, supporting people. But you know what? Sometimes I look at the Europeans and you have to say, look at, we're a pretty young country, right, compared to them. And we were settled mostly by Europeans. And a lot of what we do as Americans is because of how we were created and who created us. But I look at the history of Europe, and sometimes it baffles me that they can be so judgmental of us when their own history is just filled with just horrible stuff. I mean, from colonization to just decades of, centuries of wars against each other for over religion, over land, over you name it. It just goes on, and the atrocities committed across the European continent. I mean, and the United Kingdom, like I said, I love the death out of our English speaking brethren, but for God's sakes, the history of the English, and their colonial rule is not something to be proud of. And it's certainly, if you look what they did in Ireland to the Irish, I mean, it's horrible. So to sit back and say that, America is such a bad place, and that we pick this bad orange man leader. I mean, at least we still have kings and queens. I mean, think about that. In this modern day, we're in the 21st century, right? And they're still kings and queens. I mean, they're just people like us. There's no divine. God did not. Well, they don't even believe in God for the most part. But God picked out this people and decided that they would be a king and queen. But this is all their history. This is their history, right? And
right.
And so maybe what I'm getting at is, if they could so easily overlook their own blemishes, and not take a deep dive into trying to figure out what they've done in the world, maybe it's really easy for them to overlook Barack Obama and what he did in his 8 years. Maybe.
And by the way, is there any doubt in your mind that the riots going on to this day, as you and I are talking, Clint, there are still riots going on in America, that this was fueled by the Obamas? The seeds of this divide, it was not Donald Trump. It was the Obamas.
No, I do. Well, first of all, I think Donald Trump is a 100% response to the Obamas. Donald Trump was created by 8 years of the Obama administration. If it had been any other Democrat in office for 8 years other than Barack Obama, Donald Trump would never had a chance of being elected president. He is very much the reactionary result of that poorly run administration and the results on the American people and the American psyche. But yeah, do I think the seeds of unrest were generated during the Barack Obama administration? Absolutely. I think, like I said, and listen, I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for him first time or the second time because I didn't think he was qualified to be president. From his history and what he did. But once he got in, I said, okay, well, here's our chance now. We have an African American in the White House. Let's bring peace and unity to this country. And it didn't happen. Didn't happen.
No. And by the way,
and you
speaking
can't-
about him
and
being
you can't-
qualified, Clint,
Yeah.
you know what? When you're talking about him being qualified, so to our friend in the United Kingdom that asked this question, I want to point something out to you that if Barack Obama had applied to become an FBI agent like Clinton and I did and hold a clearance, he would have never qualified for that clearance because of his associations with terrorists over the years. His campaign, his original campaign, was launched in the living room of Bill Ayers, who was a terrorist in the United States. That affiliation alone would have prevented him from ever holding a job. So the Secret Service agents that were protecting him and his family, he himself would have never qualified to be one of those agents. Okay, and so I mean that's something to think of there.
His drug use would have kept him out too. So.
Yeah, no, he was not qualified for that job, and we haven't even gotten into. Again, this could take a number of episodes to answer this lady's question, but James Comey, there's listen to me and listen to me very closely. Barack Obama was involved in this whole conspiracy to take out Donald Trump before Donald Trump was elected. If you do not believe that, then you absolutely do not know how the system works. It is not possible to have had the investigation going on and the FISA warrants activated or approved on the campaign of a political opponent and the president of the United States not know about it. That is not possible. Okay, it is not possible. So we need to knock it off with this whole thing. He didn't know about it. Then because if that was the case, and you and I both know, one of the worst cases that you can work in the FBI is a public corruption case because of the scrutiny. And I'm talking about if you're looking at a mayor, if you're looking at a local mayor in a city and you're up on the politician, the scrutiny on you as an agent, because there's so many people that have their fingers in it because they're so worried about you violating First Amendment protected rights and all of the other issues that go along with public officials. That's for a local mayor or even a city council person. Could you imagine going up and actually doing multiple FISAs on a guy running for president, a guy that had a good chance of becoming president? It's not possible. And that was Obama. That was his Justice Department. That was the CIA director. That was the FBI director. And again, there's going to be books written about this. History books are going to be replete with what we're talking about right here. And who was the head of that? Barack Obama. And I don't know about our friend in the UK listening to this program, but we here in America do not tolerate our government being used against its citizens and political rivals. We don't. That is not okay here. For me, if there's one single reason why I don't miss the Obamas, it's that one right there. Clint, well, I don't know what you think about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, one of the worst cases you could have is we call them sins, special interest matter, right? And definitely, oh my God, definitely that would have been one of the biggest ones you could possibly ever have had, right? But you're right. Obama knew. He had to have known. He had to have been briefed on it. I'm assuming Joe Biden probably had to have known if he was paying attention at the time.
There's no way. There's no way he didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's one of the foundations of this country. That's one of the core reasons why the United States of America came into existence was so the population could be protected from the government. That's one of the reasons why our European ancestors came here, was to get away from that kind of stuff. And to have that and who brought that back in? Mr. Liberal Democrat, Barack Obama, peace and love, and we need to bring everybody together, and we can't condemn anybody for anything. But behind the scenes, he's targeting American citizens without due process. And that's why I'm saying, don't tell me about what a great husband he was, a great father to his kids, how nice he was, how he spoke. He never raised his voice. He always seemed cool and calm. I don't care. It is not how you behave. It is your actions. That is what I look at. That is what I look at.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. When I remember when he spoke at, it was one of the, before he was anybody, I think when he was just a junior senator at the time, he spoke at the Democratic Convention.
Yeah, the DNC, National Convention. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I listened to his speech, and I was like, wow, this guy, he might be something, because he came off very polished, very well spoken, very suave on stage and behind the mic. Everything, unfortunately, George Bush really wasn't, And I was like, oh, this guy could go places. And he did. He ended up, going to the White House, much to Hillary Clinton's chagrin. But it's all fake. I think that's what you're getting at. It's he's this polished guy when you see him and you hear him and everything, but it's all fake. And I think, ultimately history will show that his administration was incredibly flawed. It put us in a situation that was it damaged the United States of America in many ways, probably ways that we still are, just finding out. And I think, the circle back around to your listener's statement. That's it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Barack Obama, it was a fraud. His administration was a fraud, and I think a lot of people here in the United States see through it.
Yeah. And I think a mistake that a lot of Europeans make is that they look at our political system through their lens. When, you have to remember, in Europe, you have a very different system. You have a very different way of looking at your relationship with Europe. You have a different way of looking at your relationship with the world. You do not have the same constitution that we have. There are things that you can do over there that you cannot do over here that would be completely unacceptable. For example, one that I heard recently is that the British Army now is being deployed to enforce the lockdown orders in the United Kingdom. That's something that would absolutely never be tolerated here in the United States. We do not use the military to enforce anything with American citizens. And it's just different. I'm not saying it's better or bad. I'm just saying it's different. And so whenever I hear Europeans, and in this case, I'm talking about Europeans, not just people in the United Kingdom, because I have friends in Germany and Belgium and other countries that feel the same way. I don't think they understand the fundamental aspects of America in our founding, why we were founding, and the principles that we hold. And Barack Obama was against all of that. We haven't even touched on religion. And to say that he never badmouthed anybody because of their religion, that's absolutely incorrect as well. Right now, we have a Supreme Court justice nominee that is being interviewed as I speak. As you and I are sitting here talking, Clint, right now, Amy Coney Barrett is being grilled by the Senate, and one of the issues that has been brought up is her faith, and she's being questioned about her Christian values, and that is something that has its roots in the Obama administration. It is something that because I can tell you this: if she was a Muslim, they would not be questioning her on this. If she was anything other than a practicing Christian, in her case, a Catholic Christian, no one would dare to question her about her religion. If you're a Christian like you and I, it's almost like it's forbidden to even talk about that in the American public anymore openly, certainly on the political stage. And that, make no mistake, started with the Obamas. It absolutely started with the Obamas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. My wife and I drove up to New York, my son's birthday last weekend, and one of the things she brought up about why do the Republicans have to cling so much to these issues of faith, right? And she goes, hey, if they could just get rid of that, people would be better, happier about them, or along those lines. And I'm like, why is having a faith in something a bad thing? Since when is that? Why? I don't go around saying, if you want to be transgender, if you want to be homosexual, I have close friends who have homosexual children who are, who I've known my whole life, and I don't care about any of that, right? And I understand how they feel in society, and I am a conservative Republican, and I understand them, and I support them, right? But I don't condemn them, right? And I don't understand why people would condemn someone like the Supreme Court nominee, because she believes in something that is dear to her. She also doesn't go out saying that she hates homosexuals, or she wants to roll back this or do that or that. No, maybe she's a Christian that loves everyone like Jesus said you were supposed to. How's that? Could that be the possibility? Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people who cloak themselves in religion and in the process discriminate against others and are the exact opposite of what the faith should be about. I mean, we can agree that those people exist, but don't just cast everyone in that same lot because they have to go to church on Sunday and they actually believe, that there is goodness in the word, right? So that was my answer. I don't know if it was a good one or not, but
no, I agree, and I think that it's become a political issue because I think with Amy Coney Barrett, what's going on there. It's the whole Roe v. Wade abortion issue, and they're trying to say that because she's Catholic, then she's automatically going to move to strike down Roe v. Wade, and but again, that goes against the Constitution because the Constitution says that there should be no religious test for holding office, meaning the way I interpret that is they should not even be talking to her about her religion because there should not be a test for that whatsoever. But there is that double standard, and I guarantee you the Democrats in this country, the Democrats that are in the Senate that are questioning her, if this was a Muslim or if this was a Hindu, if this was anyone, an atheist or anyone else that was sitting there and a Republican brought this up, then they would be universally beaten down. And in fact, I would even join that and say, hey, you're not supposed to have a religious test for this particular office. But for some reason, it does not apply to Christians. If you're a Christian, then it's okay to be attacked for being a Christian, but it's not okay to be attacked for anyone else. And the record was that Obama was very clearly not supportive of Christians. And I don't know where Europeans are getting this notion that he never insulted anyone. It was fairly routine, actually. I bristled at it the whole 8 years, and again, we could go on forever, talking about the Obamas and why they are not going to be missed. And folks, all I have to say is this: that you are seeing right now. The single biggest reason why we do not miss the Obamas is you just wait, and when all of this stuff that happened regarding Donald Trump, the investigation, the Russia investigation, and all of the players in his administration that were involved in this coup. And that's exactly what it was. It was this coup. When that's unraveled, you were going to see the single biggest fraud that was put on this country that we've ever seen in the history of this country. And that, my friends, was all headed by Barack Obama and his administration. And it's a big deal. And what scares me is to think that if Hillary Clinton had been elected, we would never even know about this, Clint. We would never even know about it. And it's pretty scary to hear that the instruments and the levers and our organization that you and I spent much of our adult lives in was used to carry this out. That's frightening to me. And frankly, it pisses me off that was done. It really does. And we have to do some cleaning. And folks, we are a few weeks out from the election coming up here. And I can tell you, if Joe Biden gets elected, all of this stuff is going away. All of this stuff is going away. And that is not going to be good for America at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, Clint, I appreciate you joining us today. And to our
Mark,
friend,
it's always a pleasure. Yeah. And to our friend in the United Kingdom, I hope we're able to provide a little bit of insight into, what the mindset is here in America regarding Barack Obama. But we'll see.
Yeah. But the good news is
a response.
Clint, you know what? But what the great news is? We have found a vaccine. 100% Food and Drug Administration approved. It is the Mark Vine Show. And the more you listen to this, the better empowered you are, the more likely you will be protected from that virus known as liberalism. And you know what? If you love your family and friends, you're going to get them vaccinated with the Mark Vine Show, folks. And so with that, take a look at the Facebook site. Give us a like, give us a listen, give us a comment. And to our dear friend in the United Kingdom, I hope this answered some of your questions. And please keep it coming. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Clint, thank you again for joining us, and we will be talking soon.
My pleasure, Mark. Thank you.